At 2 o'clock in the morning, the Joint Medical Stabilization Unit hums under red light and locked badges while winter rain taps the panes. Nora Hale, Lieutenant Medical Service Corps, prior Special Operations Independent Duty Corpsman, keeps her shoulders low and her eyes on the monitors. Boone Haggerty mutters about pace, and she lets it roll off. She steadies tape, corrects an IV angle, and the patient settles. For a second, she almost rushes it. Then she stops. Stainless reflects a trail of red LEDs as Wyatt Finch stiffens at the console. An off-channel flag jumps onto the screen. SAP hold in block letters that do not belong on a hospital page. Dr. Ezra Whitman sees the non-EMS format and his mouth tightens. Lights flicker with the storm and the hallway seems to take a breath. Dread takes hold. Nora lets it harden into purpose. At 2:15 in the morning, the intake corridor glows red while bulkhead doors part and military police move in at low ready. White light flicking on and off like a blink. 3 oversized men cross the threshold. The lead casualty is Master Sergeant Grant Riker of the 75th Ranger Regiment. Eyes cutting across corners as if the ward were a blown house. He asks for Doc. Not doctor. The two with him set their feet like handlers. Not friends. Nora Hale, Lieutenant Medical Service Corps with a prior Special Operations Independent Duty Corpsman background, steps into his line and uses calm field language to anchor him stateside without giving instructions. Wyatt Finch stiffens as SAP. Hold paints a corner of the console. Dr. Ezra Whitman catches the non-EMS phrasing and his mouth flattens. Rain beads crawl down the outer glass. Red LEDs ripple along stainless. Nora's fingertips hover near tape and line. Her glove snags once and she fixes it. The hallway feels like lungs paused before a choice. A single word can be a lifeline, but only if the speaker knows which way the current is moving. At 2:20 in the morning, the red-lit trauma bay holds steady as military police hover at low ready. One officer keeps white light on a beat too long. Grant Riker snaps, his hand finding Nora Hale's throat, lifting her clear of the floor for a breath. Her shoes scrape tile. For a second, she almost flails. Then she stops. She drops free. The next 6 seconds are quiet and exact. Nora, Lieutenant Medical Service Corps with a prior Special Operations Independent Duty Corpsman background, sets a safe vascular restraint outcome and talks him home with simple orientation. Stateside. Sterile room. No fire. His chest eases. Numbers on the monitor step down from jagged to workable. Rain tracks the window. Dr. Ezra Whitman is frozen behind glass. Mouth half open. The MP's steady at low ready instead of rushing. The ward stays intact. Panic gives way to control. And trust slips into the room like air after a held breath. An action beat does not need volume. It only needs the heart set to the right tempo. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the trauma bay holds its red pulse while winter rain drums the overhang. Out on the restricted ramp, a black umbrella glides from a Suburban. Rear Admiral Lawson Pierce steps in under it with a military police escort logged and proper. Their paperwork clean even as a pre-arranged camera loop scrubs 30 seconds of the view. The rim of the umbrella beads with water that will not fall. Inside, Cade Mercer moves his insignia-free team like a layered sweep. They treat the ward as if it were ground to clear, not patients to guard. Nora Hale stands beside Master Sergeant Grant Riker. Sedation, steady at a safe level. Her rank board plain and forgettable. Dr. Ezra Whitman watches the contractors in a way that says he recognizes the shape of a decision without liking the angle. A corner monitor carries the public SAP language like a warning label no one will read aloud. Pierce enters and asks for the replay. The tablet glow freezes on 6 seconds of Nora's hold. The frame reflecting on his face. He says she should not be on any roster. Nora answers that neither should Riker, if the only roster that counts is the one that erases people. Her voice stays level. Mine almost catches, then steadies. She recommends hold and stabilization. Pierce gives the medical order, and for a beat, the air warms. Mercer tilts his head. A tiny earpiece blinks. His dark channel plan moves ahead with words like alternate movement and adjusted window. He nods men into corners that no nurse would ever choose. Military police remain present and documented. Yet their influence thins at the ramp, where badges outrank common sense. Chief Warrant Officer Darren Cole waits just outside the circle, half in shadow near a badge reader. He reads the room the way some people read grief. Too much authority with too few signatures. He says little. He watches everything. The red light carries on. Riker's vitals hold. The umbrella waits by the door like a symbol for process that covers the surface while the storm underneath gets worse. When power shows up where it does not need to, it usually means the truth is too heavy to delegate. I want to call that cynical. I correct myself. Tonight it is practical. Outside. The camera loop finishes. Inside. The ward pretends to be a place without politics. And the pretense lasts exactly one breath more. At 3:20 a.m., Nora slips into the decontamination closet, where the red haze turns sharp, corners soft. She digs through her secondary bag and finds the burner by feel. Cold screened. Blue cast on her knuckles. For a heartbeat, she almost drops it. Then she pins it with her thumb. A masked voice reaches her through static and cautions that Greybird is a code name, not a destination. And a closeout plan is already walking down the hall, under the kind of language that turns a life into an unfortunate complication. She does not answer. She looks through steamed glass at Bay 1 instead. Grant Riker is a broad shadow under blankets. Monitors pacing him. Sedation numbers look tidy. The trend line does not. Someone is nudging the mix in a way that keeps a body quiet for the wrong reasons. Nora times her breath to the red blinking on the wall. She closes the burner and slides it back beneath trauma scissors and a tape roll. Outside. Winter rain flickers the power without taking it. SAP phrasing ticks on a side monitor like a warning that is technically public but never really explained. She touches the window with the back of her fingers and fog blooms. Swallowing her reflection. Duty is not a form. It is a person. If she disappears to save herself, he does not wake. The arithmetic is that simple and that heavy. She thinks through the sub-level route she learned back when she wore a different name on the same skin. Maintenance alcove. Valve heat. A door with a badge reader that sometimes sticks. The map sits in her head, and, for a second, she doubts one turn. Then she corrects it. She chooses the oath over the cover and sets her course. You cannot always pick the fight, but you can decide who you will not leave behind. Near 3:40 a.m., the corridor hums under red light while winter power flickers and settles. Nora Hale meets charge nurse Maya Trent at a maintenance alcove, and they share a quick look that counts as a plan. Non-essential lamps slip to deeper red, and the critical glow stays steady on monitors. Big set pieces do not need big damage. Good design respects the building and the people inside. Nora checks Master Sergeant Grant Riker's face. Not the numbers first. Then confirms the numbers anyway. Safe enough to rouse for cooperation. She clips a rescue strap and feels the woven web bite her glove. It slips once and she resets. Across the ops net, Cade Mercer orders thermal sweeps on a dark channel. Nora and Maya answer with a brief bloom from the utility line. Just long enough to fuzz sensors without touching patient circuits. Wyatt Finch keeps SAP hold pinned where everyone can see it, and still somehow no one wants to read it out loud. Dr. Ezra Whitman watches the ward's vitals hold. He chews his lip and stops when he catches himself. Riker leans into Nora's shoulder, and they move 3 careful yards. Pause. Then 3 more. Military police hold off screen at low ready. The building exhales and keeps breathing. The plan stops being a whim right here. Flipping the night, not the hospital, becomes the tactic. And Nora feels purpose settle like a weight she can actually carry. The sublevel carries its own weather. Warm, wet air clings to paint and pipe as Nora Hale edges beneath the ward with Master Sergeant Grant Riker leaning against the rescue strap at her hip. They move on short rests. 10 steps. Breathe. 8 steps. Adjust. Her lungs prickle from the damp heat, and she tells herself it is just the steam, not fear. She nearly pushes the pace, then checks it. He is heavy and awake enough to help. Which matters more than speed. Above them, the red light policy holds. Vitals upstairs stay even. Dr. Ezra Whitman tracking numbers that do not show footsteps. Wyatt Finch keeps SAP hold pinned on a corner screen like a storm icon no one wants to discuss. Contractors under Cade Mercer spread through cross corridors. Thermal imaging washes out against a timed bloom from the utility line. The fog catching light and turning gray. Puddles reflect ceiling pipes and smear every silhouette. One operator stumbles through a threshold with momentum wrong for this floor. Nora meets him in the space between steps and turns the wrist quiet without instructions. Just the result of survival. Then guides Riker past. He pauses to pick up a dropped M17. The magazine feels thin. He keeps it anyway. More ballast than answer. And they move. Condensation beads along a door gasket ahead. Orange sodium glow leaks around the jam like a worn coin rubbed smooth. Nora sets Riker to the wall and listens. For a second, the tunnels sound empty. Then, the air trembles with footsteps behind and a muffled call 2 corridors over. She raises a hand to steady him and feels the strap bite through her glove. Maya Trent pings a one-time badge open from topside. The lock answers with a tired clunk, and the weight gives. Cold ramp air folds into the tunnel and cuts the steam. The building has been their ally, not their cage. They are not a strike team. They are 2 people choosing to move anyway. And the choice hardens into resolve as the door creeps wider. The chase works best when the win comes from knowing limits. That is how people who are not superheroes still make it home. Near 4 a.m, the restricted ramp hums under sodium lamps, while winter rain pools into wavering mirrors. Rear Admiral Lawson Pierce waits beside a black Suburban. One hand on a rain-slick umbrella. Military police stacked at an outer ring where paperwork says they belong. Contractor, lead Cade, Mercer holds his insignia-free team loose but ready. Eyes tracking lines of approach as if the overhang were a grid to own. Pierce offers what sounds like sanity. Stabilization. A legitimate flight. The sober cadence of someone who still believes process can hold. Mercer's posture tells a different story, and it is written in small movements. The shot that ends the argument is a soft cough that dies in the fog. Pierce folds to the asphalt without a shout. Umbrella tilting out of his hand and spinning once before it settles. Mercer's order is quieter than the impact. Clear it. Remove liabilities. 2 names without being spoken. Nora Hale moves before thought finishes forming. She yanks Grant Riker behind a cold concrete pillar and feels her shoulder bark in protest. He is heavy and stubborn and present. She keeps him focused on breathing and on staying upright. A pressure bandage catches rain along the edge and turns a darker shade. For a second, her grip slips. She fixes it and talks low. Steady. Not for tactics, but for focus. Mercer's team shifts to close the angles. Feet smearing light across the wet. The camera loop window on the ramp ticks away seconds they cannot afford. Inside the glass, the ward glows red, as if nothing has happened. Outside. Everything has. Riker gathers himself and surges once. Not graceful, but unstoppable enough to knock a firing lane off balance. It buys a sliver of space. Nothing more. Yet it feels like a door cracking. The M17 on the ground might as well be a brick. He leaves it. Distant sirens begin to angle toward the ramp. Colors bleed into fog and paint the puddles in bruised light. Fear compresses into intent because there is no middle road left. Power writes the rules until one of its authors gets erased in the open. And then survival becomes the only honest argument left. An execution with no theatrics turns the ramp into a courtroom with no witnesses. Nora braces her back to the pillar and keeps him breathing while the verdict approaches. Near 4:10 in the morning, the restricted ramp feels colder than it should. Rain coming down in long sheets that flatten sound. Nora Hale braces Master Sergeant Grant Riker behind a concrete pillar and keeps his gaze level. She talks in short anchors about breathing and about staying on his feet. Her palm holds pressure where it matters, and her shoulder complains. A dull bite she can ignore for now. The red-lit ward glows behind glass as if it belongs to a different night altogether. A discarded M17 lies near a drain, like a tool no one has the strength to use. She leaves it where it is. Cade Mercer works the perimeter on a dark channel. Contractors without insignia, tightening arcs the way a storm tightens sky. Their favorite light is gone. A sodium lamp shattered earlier, and now a wedge of gray hangs over the ramp, turning angles into bad math. One operator advances and hits pooled water wrong. He slips a half step and snaps a boot back under him. But the space he gives up is enough. Nora does not escalate. She holds ground and keeps Riker with her. Rain crawls along the edge of a pressure pad and gathers into a cold line. Sirens bend toward the compound. Still distant but no longer indifferent. Military police vehicles take the outer ring where policy puts them. Inside their cars. Red and blue breathe in fog and paint the puddles with patient color. Nora checks Riker's face for telltales, and then, fine, checks the numbers through the glass anyway. They hold. She lets that be fuel. For a second, she almost says something brave and useless. She swallows it and settles on simple directions about breath and posture. Mercer's voice rides the dark net. Collapse the corridor. Keep it clean. No names. His team tries to box them. But the broken lamp denies symmetry, and the rain keeps smearing their reflections. A camera loop window ticks somewhere above the ramp. SAP phrasing has been on a monitor for an hour, and still no one says it out loud. The first MP unit arrives with restraint and purpose. Low, ready. No shouting. Chief Warrant Officer Darren Cole steps into the wedge of gray, and the scene changes temperature. He does not compete for volume. He does not narrate fear. He states the priority that should have been obvious. Medical on me. The most suspenseful sound is not gunfire. It is the first steady voice that says, medical on me. Medics move under his command lines. Stretcher up. Rain scalloping off the canvas. Nora keeps pressure in space until hands replace hers and straps tighten. Hope is not loud here. It is a corridor someone opens with a single, clear order. Rescue arrives by medical precedence, not by superior fire. And the physics of the scene tilt toward life. Cole's silhouette fixes in the flashing bars. Nora's fingers cramp, then reset on the wrap until the load passes her and the ramp exhales. Near 4:20 in the morning, the ramp edge gleams with rain, while military police medics steady Master Sergeant Grant Riker on a stretcher. Pressure wraps hold. Wheels tick over a lip and the frame settles. Nora Hale stands at the margin. Soaked through and ordinary enough to be missed if no one looks twice. Chief Warrant Officer Darren Cole slides into quiet scene command and tells her what she already knows. If she stays, they will rewrite her. She almost says she can handle it. She swallows that and nods instead. Charge nurse Maya Trent ghosts a side door that happens to be unwatched. Warm kitchen air spills out and fogs the edge of the corridor. The red-lit ward holds steady behind glass like a heartbeat on cruise. Sirens wash the ramp without hurrying the hands that matter. Roll handoff waits just past the threshold, and Riker's path bends toward it. Nora steps close to Cole and presses a sealed coin into his palm. Tell him Doc kept the promise. The coin sits dull and heavy. A record with no signature and no edit line. She takes 2 steps. Hesitates. Then takes the third. Wet soles squeak once on tile, and she winces at the noise. The service exit breathes heat over her shoulders as she fades into the corridor behind the dining facility. She does not look back. The stretcher wheels tick again, and the sound carries. The ward light does not waver. Sometimes, disappearing on purpose is the only way the truth gets a second chance to be told. The door eases in. The ramp keeps its reign. The coin remains where memory can find it. Months later, a sealed envelope finds Chief Warrant Officer Darren Cole. Inside sits a coin. Now etched Stitch. He almost pockets it. He does not. Master Sergeant Grant Riker is alive and moving forward. The official summary calls it an incident. Cole turns the coin in his palm, then writes his note and tucks it where it will be read. An empty bed. Curtain half drawn. Clean lines on the glass. You are not just watching from the seats. Tonight you decide what the right kind of courage looks like.